Good morning, everybody. Hopefully, you all had a good night's rest. How's everyone doing today? It is Thursday. It's Thursday, and we are about to discuss um, whether or not money could be the mark of the beast. People say that that's crazy. Yeah, my hair. What's wrong with my hair? It's still my fro. It just looks different. Okay. I still have my fro. I haven't cut it. I'm helping it grow. I'm helping it grow. Um, People dismissed it when I first had this topic put up um, because they say it's not money. It wouldn't be money. Um, but I want to put some stuff together here and see what we think about it. Okay, Tron, whatever. Um, so I want to explore a couple of things. Now, I'm not saying this is or isn't the case. I'm not saying this is 100% true. I'm just saying my speculation on it because no one knows yet what that mark is. Okay, we simply don't know. Um, but it will be known when they offer it to you as to the criteria. And when you see the criteria, you should know. Okay. Um, it's not a haircut. I didn't get my haircut. It's not a haircut. Trust me, it's not a haircut. Okay. It's not a haircut. It's compressed. It's compressed. So we'll take a little bit of look at some stuff coming down the pike, and you can make your own assumptions as to whether or not it makes any sense. It may not make sense to you, but it was a theory that was kind of just ruminating around. So we'll put it out there. Um, we got a lot of today's gonna be testing people. I'm letting you know now ahead of time. Today's gonna be testing. Today is gonna be testing. Wow. Okay. Yeah, man, today's gonna be testing. So, if you're not aware yet, um, the implant business has become uh, the thing now to either do for your medical bills or your medical information. You put it in your hand, or um, over in the English countries, Britain and stuff like that, they already have cards that you can put in a little implant right in the crux of your hand there. Um, and it has all your banking info. You can just scan it. You won't have to do anything. Some people have it for work, um, where you just scan in for work and it's in the palm of your hand. Um, it's not far fetched. Now, money as it is today, not the mark. I can attest to that the money today isn't the mark. Um, Obviously, because it's an external thing. It's currency you hand over. It's paper. It's coins. It's. So no, I don't believe that money as we know it now is the mark of the beast. However, I can see where money can become it if they transition from a paper format to an implant format. That I can definitely see happening. Um, if you if you read what it says in Revelation, and we've covered this before when I talked about the mark before, in Revelation 13 and verse 16, it says, "He caused both great and small, rich and poor, free and bond to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man can buy or sell save that he had the mark, or the mark of the beast, or the number of its name." So I can definitely see where money transitioning out of paper into a less solid state entity can become it. It's the one thing that you need to purchase. It's the one thing you need to sell. It's the one thing you need to get food. It's the one thing that people have now become the normal staple. So I can see how they can transition from what we know as money now to what we might be later. Um, there's already um, a chip called Wallet More, and you can have it put in your hand for as little as $200. And this particular chip is from a Polish British company, and you can have all of your payment information downloaded into this little chip, and it's stuck right, like I said, in the meat of your hand back here, and you can just scan it, and you're good to go. Um, there are also barcodes that are being implemented in some places as well. Sometimes at the back of the head, and sometimes on the forearm here, or sometimes back here. These are things that are already in place. They're not pending. Um, some people have the chip for medical purposes to be monitored, or to even disperse medication sporadically to the body. So it's not far fetched that they would intentionally move people from paper to a chip. So if that does become the case, um, what then is our role? What then becomes our go to if we are going to be limited by what we can and can't do? You can't move around, can't travel, you can't buy food, you can't sell food unless you take it. Are you being aware enough to that whatever form the mark shows up, that you're acutely aware of the limitations that they place on you? Are you going to be aware of it in time to do something about it? This is part of what I would call being aware of things. Um, while I don't know in what form the mark of the beast will come, I do know this much, that it will show up in the concept of control. It will require you to depend on man and not God. So the question then remains, what do you do if the mark is money? What do you do if the mark is money? You can't receive it from work because they'll more likely transition your deposit to a direct scan of your hand. You can't purchase food because you can't do it without a direct scan of your body. You can't gas up, you can't drive, you can't go anywhere. What do you do? Do you allow yourself to practice now depending on what he has for you, or are you going to wait? Now, mind you, everything will be done for you. There'll be no, you will not even be able to go to a doctor. If you think that the mark of the beast is going to be something that you can just not do and still participate in what you consider normal life, I want to just have you think about something real quick. The mark is more than just can't buy, can't sell. Because if you think about the can't buy, can't sell concept, You're dealing with everything, everything. You cannot function in the way society is set up right now at all. They're going to require you to take something upon yourself to participate in the things of man: medical, sporting events, purchasing food, purchasing gas, traveling, clothing. Are you prepared? I'm not talking about man's type of preparation where you have a backup plan. I'm talking about your trust level. Is your trust level of what God's going to do enough for you when that time shows up? Since you don't know when, are you prepping now for that? Because I'm telling you now that this is going to become a problem for some. It's going to become a problem for some. And I can probably name the types that it will become a problem for. Those of us who have become used to having, you are unaware that you are dependent on money, you're unaware that you're dependent on your abilities. And then when it comes down to the wire, you don't have anything to fall back on because all of your time, trust was in something that was not of worth. Then when the time shows up for them people to say, yo, either you take this and continue doing your job or we take your job. There has been some discussion about the whole 666 thing. And like I've told you before, for me, it's not really a concern for me. But the reason why I'm covering topics like this is for the sake of people who are still on the fence as to whether or not they think the end times is going to be a real deal. For people who don't believe that what's coming is going to come either in their time or it may not come at all. I don't know what the mark is going to show up like. I don't know if it's going to be as blatant as take this 666 number on your head. I don't know if it's going to be holding you at gunpoint and saying, put this on. I don't know that they're going to come to each person's house and pin you down and brand you with some. I have no concept of how they're going to do it. If I were to be a gambling man, I would say that they would introduce it very subtly and put it to you in a way that will make you want to take it. Because it says he causes them to take. There's a reason why that word is used. He will cause them to take it. Now, what happens when you cause someone to do something? You set up some parameters, you create scenarios, you build a platform, and he will cause you to take it. Didn't say force, cause. Now, if I put something in front of you that causes you to make a decision between one thing or another, I have set for you a place where the choice has to be made. Now, when I hear about them causing you to take a mark to buy and sell, money makes the most sense to me, which is why I'm saying this is my opinion. Money makes the most sense simply because it has become the universal binding agent for moving around the world. Money has become the catalyst for every sort of endeavor, investments, um, growth in your home, moving around the world, eating, everything has revolved around money now. Some people fall for the love of it. I get it. So if anything was going to force people to take it, I don't think they're going to try and do it through the means of worship this mark or not. I think they're going to make you have to pick between starvation and eating. It'll cause you to take the mark if hear me out, if your trust is not in God. They'll cause you to. I'm going to say this, there'll be many people who profess to be Christians that will not see it coming because they will consider it a necessity to have if we want to eat. They'll tell you this. I'm going to tell you now, you're going to have people say, just mark my words, you're going to hear people say, this is just God's way of providing for us. And so we have to, God would want me to eat, God would want me to live, so I have to. This isn't the mark, even though they're telling me that this is what I can and cannot do. So I have to. I'm telling you now, there'll be many that do that. Whether it's money or something else, you will see many come and tell you, I have to because God wants me to live. I have to because this is God providing a way. I have to because God wouldn't want me to starve. God wouldn't want me to not go and spread the message. So I have to take this so I can do his work. You will hear people say that. They've already practiced doing that with they've already practiced it. You can't worship God without. You think they're not buttering up the church for that? No, we're going to shut down your services unless you do what we say and how we say you do it. You can't go worship God unless we tell you how. You can't even sing. Now, if you could go back, just go back for a moment, go back. Um, if you go back to 2019, 2020, you will see something interesting. When man told the church they can't do something, the majority of churches did exactly what the government told them. Did it exactly. They just fell right in line. And some even castigated the congregation when they stepped out of line of the government's edicts. In California, they put it a ban that you couldn't even sing loudly. You had to whisper your songs. You couldn't open your doors. You couldn't serve the homeless. You couldn't do anything. And the vast majority of churches said, okay, we'll do it. And somehow we believe that these people are going to be the ones to forsake the mark. No, I don't believe that at all. I think they're going to try and flip it to be a godly thing, which is why he specifically told you to work out your own. The relationship has to be there to avoid what's coming. But when you have mass amounts of people that claim to be the church, just going along with whatever the government said to do and ignore what God said to do, you can see a massive problem when it comes down to what's coming. You have something to decide, at least for in my world, I think, is what you have to decide. Either you really want to have a relationship with God so you know what to expect, or you don't. Because guaranteeing you money, the devil will not make it easy for you to say no. Your resolve will have to be very strong for you to avoid the option. Because if you would do attend a church, building, structure, whatever, a body that calls himself the church, and the so called pastor says, well, we can no longer meet unless we do blah, blah, blah. You can't access the doorway without blah, blah, blah. They've already signed their 501c3s. They're already an entity of the government anyway. So they have to comply. So now you have the so called body run by man, dictated by man, controlled by man, being told what to do by man, but is telling you that they're controlled by God. And then you no longer can go worship with the body. What are you going to do then? What are you going to do? Where are you in this walk with your father? Where are you with it? Where? Have you fully stepped through the blood and are wearing it on your own doorpost? And that's the only mark you need. Is that where you are? Or are you waiting for something else to boost your relationship? Are you waiting for something bigger? What happens when you can't go to work? What happens when you can't put gas in your car? What happens when you're completely relegated to the confines of your house? What if they find out you won't take it and they come to your house to tell you to take it? What if they drag you from your home and threaten to kill the rest of your family if you don't take it? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to not take it? Are you trusting God to let you know what to do? And are you ready in the event that your life be forfeit for not taking it? Because a lot of us are being coerced without our knowing. Like there's so many things in place right now. Let's just be let's do go down some things. You can't drive without a license. You can't have a car without insurance, and you can't have this without that. Tons of stuff in place right now that if you were to say tomorrow they become a mandatory thing or else, and they want to slip in something else on the backs of it, most of us will just say okay. Which is why the last time I spoke about something like this with the mark, remember me telling you that I don't care? You remember me saying that however it shows up and whatever form it takes, it's not an issue. If it does come in the form of money, are you willing to not need money for the sake of Christ? If it comes in the form of an implant that has nothing to do with money, are you still willing to ignore it for the cause of Christ? And are you willing now to just have the relationship you need to have with Christ, that you don't need to worry about what's coming because he will guide you? I think a lot of us are so back and forth with this relationship thing with God. It's really hard to get out of our own way a lot of the times. We can't take full charge of our walk sometimes. We're looking for everybody else to help us along the way. It's just that you have to have a one on one thing with the ever living God. You have to. This is not even a joke time anymore. Like, we're in it. I don't care whether we're in pre tribulation, pre rapture, almost rapture, the marks. None of that, none of that should dictate how deep your relationship is. None of the pending doom should not be your quickening to your relationship. The urge that you should have is to know him so deeply that that should be your quickening. Regardless of when the rapture happens, if the rapture happens, when the mark of the beast shows up, regardless of all of that, none of that should be your reasoning behind getting to know God. None of it. That should not be it. You should be at the point where you see yourself now as you were before him, what he is has done, and you're living in it. That should be your only focus. But it has not been for a long time for the body. We get complacent and we get wrapped up in the next big thing. How are we going to do worship music? How is our building going to look? How far can we make sure we get this project to go? How many lives can we affect by having this project? Blah 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 blah. How many buses can we get? How are we going to get money to pay Pastor so and so? Make sure we pick the next collection up. All we've done is colorize the world's behavior with the word Christ on it. That's all the church seemed to have done, is just taken the world, package it up with the word Christ on it, and put it in the form of worship. They're not worshiping. If they were, listen to me carefully. If the church today were really all about the power of God through Christ, if they really were, none of them, and I mean none, not a single one, would have shut down when the government told them to. All of them would have risked everything because they knew God would have had their back. None really did that. They all seemed to comply. They set their chairs out 6 feet apart. They have masks at the door. You need to have your jab card before you walk through here. You don't think the devil's testing you? You don't think he's trying to see exactly what you'd give into and what you won't give into? You've given into everything. Why do you think that for some reason the mark's just going to be so blatant that you won't do it when you've given into everything else? You've given into everything else. They tell you to jump, you say, how high? I have seen scores of so called pastors berating their membership because they don't want to wear something on their face. You show up, you sing about the great physician, right? That's what you consider God, right? The great physician. Then turn around and say, we got to be afraid of something that he can easily have power over. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? You don't really believe he has power then. You don't really believe anything about him that he says, because if you did, you would not be listening to man and been telling you how to worship. The instant a man could step in front of you and say, this is how you're going to worship God, you should have instantly said, yeah, right. Majority didn't do that. And I'm sorry to say that the sad thing might be, um, we're going to see a lot more people that we thought were really deep in a relationship take it. I would tell you and ask you to do this much, okay? Do not, do not put anything before your relationship. Don't put anything before your relationship with him. Either he's God of all or he's God of nothing. Either he is God of all or he's God of nothing. Either he has the power to keep you in this current age, remove you from the tribulation, or leave you in it regardless you have him. People say, well, that's not what the Bible. Listen carefully to me. If my relationship is with God and it is solid because I am paying every ounce of attention I need to with my walk, he will alert me to anything I need to know. Period. Period. I will be alerted to the sign. I'll be alerted to every single possible stumbling block coming towards me, which is why I emphasize so much that you need to make sure that your relationship with the author is right, is dead on, is spot on. That's the reason I tell you to go back there. Because if you don't stay there, I don't know how else you are going to be able to function and weed through all the nonsense that's going to come at you. Because trust and believe me, the message is going to be very slick. They're going to influence many. They're going to be some strong people that will fall for some very, very, very subtle things. I mean, it's already crept into the body already. Think about it. Just think about this is another reason why I think the avenue of money might be it. The health and wealth gospel has been going around for a while, right? Where God wants you to be well off financially. He wants you to be well off financially. That's the message going around many, many churches, right? So if God wants you to be financially profitable and money is your only real way to be profitable, and they offer you to take something upon your body that will keep you profitable, the message to the so called church is already there that he wants you rich. So take it. You'll be able to buy and trade just like God wants you to. God wants you to be able to buy what you want and live as you want freely. So take this. I'm telling you now, if you believe somehow that God is a grocery store or Amazon or a genie in a bottle, this mark we will take it with no equivocations and no problem and still think it's from God. You will take it because you will believe that God wants you to be wealthy and rich and happy. No, He wants you to have joy. And joy can abound in suffering. Joy can abound in persecution because joy is also a location, which is where He put you. But I'm afraid, but not fearful. I'm afraid that majority of people in churches, and I will keep putting that in quotations because we'll talk about that tomorrow, in churches will have no problem kowtowing to man's demand when it comes to the mark. For those of you who put an emphasis on the relational aspect of God, where He's called you to a secret place, He's called you to quiet, He's called you to meditate with Him on His word, He's called you to one on one time, He's called you to an impartation of His Spirit. You will not need you will not need any of the stuff man will offer you. You won't need it. So my advice to you is this. My advice that you get as deep, as firm, as true a relationship as you can with your Father, putting everything else aside. Nothing else matters. There is nothing on earth worth losing anything. No connection, no time, none of it is worth it. It's not. If God is who He says He is, and He's done what He says He's done, and given you what He says He's given you, and its power is what it says it is, there should be no pull that the world offers that could be strong enough to persuade you to even look at it. That's if you believe it's true. If. Question is, are you there? See, I had a question that I asked a certain individual on TikTok. I asked him to come on the show. He hasn't replied. Um, I asked him a question, and he gave this kind of snide answer. So I asked him again. I was like, "Well, that didn't answer my question." Then he said, "Well, it's just not the answer you want." That's like it's not even remotely the answer to the question. It's just the answer you gave. And it made me aware of something. He's an evangelical or something. I don't know, some apologetic. Um, it made me notice something that the ability to answer a question directly is lost anymore. It's just lost. Or they don't want to give you the answer that's as straightforward as can possibly be. They have to give a convoluted one. And I don't understand that. I just don't. But the reason I bring that up is because you're going to have a time coming here very soon where people are going to start asking you about things going on in the world, and they'll be seeing something different going on in you. And they'll ask you, some very directly, some indirectly, what are you doing differently than others are? What are you going to tell them? Are you going to try and go into some soliloquy and preach at them, or just tell them what you did? Just tell them what you did. Just tell them what you are doing. There's no need to go into all these. Well, back in Leviticus and here in blah, just tell them what your relationship with God is like. Just, just tell them. Did you know? Did you know that the eunuch didn't ask God to send anyone to him? You know who orchestrated that meetup between the eunuch and Philip? You know who did that? Not man. God did that on his own. He did that. He could do that. That's his thing. You know who reached Saul? Not man. God did on his own. Go figure. We somehow believe that that God today is weak, like he can't do this stuff, like it's impossible. He needs me. No, he can use you. He can use you. Need? Nah, nah. Wants? Yes. Can use? Yes. Need? No, not need. Don't think too highly of yourself here. But just tell them. Just tell them. You have a personal relationship with the God of all. You have a personal relationship. And you're going to go and try and break it down into things that will more confuse the person than introducing them to the person and letting him, through his spirit, do what needs to be done. Speak to them the way he knows them to be able to listen. I'm not going to try. I introduce you to who I need to introduce you to, because the only person that made it real to me was not man, it was God that made it real to me. He made himself real to me. I may have been aimed in a certain direction by somebody, but my knowledge of him, my introduction to him did not come because of a man. It came because he introduced himself to me. A deeper relationship with God did not come because of man. It came because he did it. You have to be one, the example. They have to see it. Then they're going to want to be it. And then you can just say, I know who can get you there. And you introduce them. And you let God do what he's got to do. He does it best anyway. Don't get in his way. Don't try and muddy the water. Introduce them to the author and be done. God knows what He has to do for every individual. He knows how to reach every individual. He knows what it'll take. And He will use you as the stepping stone for them to see hard copy of what it's like to live it. But they can't live it like you live it unless they live it like you live it. They can't just copy. They can't just follow in your footsteps and say, I'll do exactly what he does. That's not their walk. They're walking your walk now. They have to walk their own with their Father. Unfortunately, if money does become the mark, there will be many that fall for it and ignore the way. My only advice to you is make sure that your calling an election is sure by keeping your eyes fixed on that relationship. Fixed, permanently fixed, permanent fixture. Tomorrow, we're going to address the church. We're going to address the church tomorrow. We're going to address the church tomorrow. If you're not prepped to hear some hard things about the church, get prepped because I'm not going to be taking it very easy on the so called church today. I'm not. I'm going to be laying into them and because I think it's time that the body wake up. If you don't wake up, we're going to have a problem. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Um, yeah, people keep thinking I got my head chopped. They gonna learn. They're gonna learn later. It ain't chopped, people. It ain't chopped. Um, I should have next week's schedule out by later today. I'm trying to beat the clock for Friday. Um, I do have a couple of days open. Um, if you guys have suggestions um, for next week, um, right now I only have about 3 days covered, so I'll let you know what those topics are. But if you have it, or have an option, or have a question, or have a topic you want to address, just inbox me. Um, straight talk at Outlook in the chat here.com. Right there. Okay. Make sure you go do that. If you have anything that you need to ask, and we'll cover it. Emotionalism. You know, I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna write that one down. I like that. I like that. That one just popped right there, and I like that. I've tried Outlook and it will not let me contact. Okay, um try that email there. Okay, Nan, try that email. That one should go through if you can't do the Outlook thing. Emotionalism. I think that might have to be Monday. That one just really just jumped out. That was really good. Um, thank you, Rebecca. That was very, very, very well done. So, in any case, today being Thursday, tomorrow being Friday, um, we will talk about the church and how far it's gone down and where's the real one anymore and can you even identify the real one and all that stuff tomorrow. Um, we'll tackle that. And then, like I said, later today, hopefully I'll have my list out. I'll drop it on my YouTube and then I'll drop it on um, my Facebook. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, options down below here. I am going to be hopefully going to get that PO box today is the plan today. And then I'll have that number for you by tomorrow. So you can, if you have any letters to send, you can send it there if you don't want to use email. You have a grand rest of the day, people. Be diligent. Keep your eyes fixed. And don't lose sight of the prize. And the prize, of course, is your relationship. Wisdom calls to you from the streets. Please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die, rely on yourself in no way.